Despite the current situation the world is in, the lineup for new coasters under development is looking impressive, so today I'm going to count down my top 10 most anticipated upcoming coasters. Seeing as most of the new 2020 coasters have been delayed, I will instead rank all coasters that we have confirmation will happen and at least have a good idea of the layout for. I will also exclude coasters which are going to be clones of already operating rides, as they aren't completely new. This list is based off of how excited I am for the project, which is a combination of how good I think the coaster will be and how impactful it will be on this industry as a whole, whether it be a new prototype or a record breaker. This list ended up being pretty difficult to make as it's so hard to choose between the coasters, as the next few years are looking so stacked, with many manufacturers really pushing the limits and making the best coasters possible. So anyways, let's get into this list. So to kick off the list at number 10 we have Fly at FANTAWILD in Germany. Fly is the first of a new flying coaster model by Vekoma, and despite them already delving into the flying coaster market a couple of times, with Fly they seem to have perfected the concept. The most interesting part of this coaster is the trains themselves, as they can rotate, which will make the boarding process easier, and it also allows for dark ride sections which this coaster may feature. Fly will also be the world's first launched flying coaster, as well as the longest flying coaster in the world, taking the record from Flying Dinosaur in Universal Studios Japan. And also loads of interactions with the paths and scenery, which is signature of Phantasialand's coasters. Unfortunately, there's been no confirmation on when this coaster will open, but it looks like we shouldn't be waiting too long, as the coaster has already completed many test runs. At number 9 is another Vekoma coaster, and actually it's two Vekoma coasters, and those are the Top Gun models, coming to both FANTAWILD NINGBO and FANTAWILD GANZHOU in China. These coasters are slated to open this year, as they have both already been completed and now are testing. The Top Gun launch coaster is a variation of Vekoma's new line of sit-down launch coasters. This particular variant seems to focus on snappy transitions and small pops of airtime, very reminiscent of a ride like Maverick at Cedar Point. We have seen the testing footage and the ride flies through the layout, with some of the highlight elements being the low to the ground high-speed heartline roll, and the first huge element which looks somewhat like a non-inverting loop. The second half of this coaster after the MCB art does look weaker than the first half. Nonetheless, having seen the success of Let Coaster, I'm sure this ride will deliver. Coming in at the number 8 spot is yet another one of Vekoma's creations, and this is ABYSSUS, coming to ENERGYLANDIA in Zator, Poland. ABYSSUS is slated to open this August if the park sees enough attendance. However, if not, it will be delayed to April 2021. ABYSSUS is the headline of a huge expansion in the form of a new themed area, Aqualantis, which will also feature a Vekoma Junior Boomerang and a few other family rides. ABYSSUS is an extended version of Vekoma's Shockwave model, one of which is being built in Dragon Valley in Nanjing, China. The main difference between the models being that ABYSSUS will have an extra launch and a short section after this first launch, which features some compact turns and tight airtime hills. The layout itself looks great, with many airtime moments and sections which will probably have some great Gs. However, my hype for this coaster has died down since Wrath of Zeus in Vin Wonders started testing, as that has a trim on the top hat which massively slows down the coaster, and ABYSSUS also features a similar trim on its top hat. But hopefully it won't trim too much. If the ride runs well, I could see it being a contender for best in Poland, as the layout has great variety, and Let Coaster shows that Vekoma can produce some of the most extreme coasters on the market. No matter what, I think ABYSSUS will be a great addition to ENERGYLANDIA, and it will really expand their lineup and add some more depth to it, as the double launch coaster can never harm a park's lineup. The 7th spot is going to the first RMC on this list, Jersey Devil at Six Flags Great Adventure. Jersey Devil is slated to open in 2021, and this will be the third RMC Raptor ever built, and the first one to not use the prototype layout. Jersey Devil is larger and has a much longer layout with loads more airtime moments. The ride hardware is also improved from the originals, with Jersey Devil featuring modified trains to hopefully increase comfort and also longer trains to boost capacity. This coaster is certainly a wildcard, as despite its abundance of airtime and phenomenal inversions, it is much less compact than the original Raptors, meaning that it could lose the whippy fast pacing which made the Raptors so popular among enthusiasts in the first place. On the other hand, it could still deliver that strong airtime, but just more of it, which would make it a great number 2 for the park, and it could maybe even beat out El Toro for some people, giving Great Adventure one of the best 1-2 punches out of any park in the world once this opens. Coming in at number 6 is a coaster much closer to home, and that is Time Traveller of PLOPSAL in Belgium, which is still on track to open next year in 2021. Time Traveller will be the second Mack Extreme spinner to be built, sharing a name with the original. While the one at PLOPSAL lacks the impressive terrain of Silver Dollar City, the whole layout has more creativity, with it featuring 5 inversions and many airtime moments. The coaster features a slow twisting JoJo roll out of the station, and also a huge raised up top hat and outward bank turn, which looks to provide great airtime, also giving it the huge vertical drop which the one at Silver Dollar City also has. Some of the inversions also work so well for a spinning coaster, and I'm sure they'll be really disorienting, especially the banana roll and the uphill 0G roll. The ride also features an airtime hill on the launch like Copperhead Strike, and the whole second half looks to have some really whippy transitions and good airtime, capitalising on the amazing spinning trains. From the concept art, this coaster seems like it'll have some really good theming like the rest of the park does, and I'm sure this will be an amazing addition to put this underrated park on the map, as I'm certain that Time Traveller will be one of Mack Ride's best creations. Coming in at number 5 is one of the least likely coasters to actually open on this list, and that is the Intamin LSM launch coaster coming to Parc Asterix in France. This coaster was originally slated to open in 2021, but now has been delayed to 2023 because of a multitude of issues concerning protected trees and planning permission. This was the first announced coaster to use Intamin's revolutionary high-speed switch track technology, but 2 will have already opened which have used it prior to this one opening. The layout itself is great, featuring many airtime moments. However, I have been slightly skeptical of this coaster from the start. Some of the airtime looks great, but my main concern lies with the anticipation stall on the top hat, which almost turns this coaster into a dive coaster, and that will definitely detract from what could have been a world-class airtime moment. The rest of the layout looks great, with a few good inversions and snappy transitions, and it will definitely be one of the best coasters in Europe upon opening. The number 4 spot on this list goes to Pantheon of Busch Gardens Williamsburg. Busch is a huge Intamin LSM launch coaster, which features a unique swing launch and high-speed switch track. This coaster was originally supposed to open in 2020, but because of liens filed against SeaWorld, it will most likely be delayed until 2021. While the first half of Pantheon's layout consists of some slow turns and an inversion, the second half looks to be where it's at. The swing launch will feature an airtime hill during it, but the best looking parts of the ride are definitely the top hat and the outward bank turn. According to a spokesperson from Intamin at IAAPA, apparently in the back row the top hat will pull forces approaching -2 Gs, which is downright insane. And the outward bank turn looks like it will feature some amazing sustained ejector. The rest of the ride also looks great, with a low to the ground stall and some high speed transitions, which all look like fun elements. This ride is a step in the right direction for Intamin, and a teaser of what is to come, as Intamin seems to be improving their layout design drastically. But that's a video for another day. But yeah, Pantheon looks like an amazing ride, and the standout elements on this coaster are sure to be among the best elements ever made, and this will definitely be the best coaster in the park, or maybe a contender for best coaster in the state of Virginia. Now we are at the top 3, and I've had a pretty hard time deciding on this top 3, as they all look fantastic and they all have potential to be top 10 in the world. But coming in at number 3 is the unnamed Jurassic World coaster coming to Universal's Islands of Adventure in Florida. While there have been no official announcements about this coaster, over the last few weeks during May and June 2020, we have seen the coaster go up, and this ride looks amazing. The first half seems to focus on tight whippy manoeuvres, and the second half seems more focused on speed. But this half also has an oscillating helix with a wave turn and an outward bank turn, which I'm sure will provide some amazing airtime. The coaster will also feature some great theming, with there being an elaborately themed station and pre-show area, and some rock work around the first half. The biggest reason that I'm hesitant to rank this coaster higher is because we don't have a good enough idea of how well it will run, and some of the elements don't look like they'll deliver as much as some hope, namely the speed hill and the high speed heartline roll. Nonetheless, the layout looks amazing, and an amalgamation of some of Intamin's best creations, such as Taron and Tiger, and I'm sure it will be a great addition, and it could be a contender for the best coaster in the state of Florida. The other contender for the best coaster in Florida is the number 2 spot, GWAZI at Busch Gardens Tampa. Right now it is unsure whether this coaster will open in 2020 or not because of SeaWorld's issues, but they have already tested this coaster with riders and it hauls. GWAZI is the huge RMC Hyper Hybrid, reaching heights of 206 feet and a top speed of 76 miles per hour. So statistically this is one of RMC's biggest coasters. This coaster seems to have some amazing elements, starting with that 91-degree drop. And then there's also that huge outward bank turn, which looks to provide some really strong sustained ejector. It also has a massive downhill barrel roll, which looks to be really whippy, and an insane looking outward banked wave turn, which looks to give some great sideways ejector. The rest of this ride looks great, however the ending doesn't seem to quite be on par with the first half. There are a couple great looking airtime moments, but the quality doesn't seem to quite be there, but seeing as it's an RMC, it'll still be really aggressive. While this coaster doesn't seem to have the airtime and quantity of Steel Vengeance, the airtime looks like it'll be so powerful, and the inversions as well look like some of RMC's best, both of which seem to be really whippy. This ride, while having a short duration, packs in loads of elements which all seem to deliver, and I can't wait for this coaster to open and hopefully to ride it soon. So, coming in at the number 1 spot is a coaster that I could see topping all other coasters that I've ridden and being my number 1, and perhaps it could even be the best coaster in the world when it opens, and that is the Intamin Mega Coaster coming to WALIBI, Belgium. Oh my god, this coaster looks insane. It has the best layout of any coaster I've ever seen. It just has so much airtime and so many different kinds. You have the sustained ejector in the first half, the floater and laterals on the non-inverting cobra roll, the sideways ejector on the wall stool, and some quick RMC style pops of ejector in the finale. And seeing as I love all of these types of airtime, and this coaster has the new Intamin over the head lap bars, I'm certain I'll love it. One of the main drawbacks is that we naturally don't know how fast this coaster will run, and seeing the disappointment of Hyperion, I don't want to set my expectations too high. But if this coaster runs well, it's a real contender for best in the world, and based off the airtime figures that we've seen from the animation and announcement, I'm sure that'll have some serious airtime. The WALIBI Belgium Mega will definitely put this park on the map, and it would be a strong headliner for the whole Benelux region, and it's a huge milestone just to show how far Intamin has come in the past few years. So, those are my top 10 most anticipated upcoming coasters being built in the next few years. This list was really hard to put together, as I'm sure that there will be some rides that disappoint and some which surprise us. I would love to see your list in the comment section below, and if you enjoyed this video or want to see more roller coaster based content, then like and subscribe.